and welcome to the Sunscreen Sessions podcast. We're excited to be here at the 20th anniversary of the Sunscreen Film Festival. Here with Brian. He's got a film here in a short we have right here at the film festival. Excited to get into that, talk more about his journey and what it's like to say yes to yourself. So Brian, before we get into the nitty gritty, tell me about your journey with filmmaking.
So my journey with filmmaking is very, unique. I obviously started out in theater. I started performing in middle school. I was a very introverted kid growing up, actually. It was very difficult to get words out of me. But, the second I stepped into my theater class in middle school in 6th grade, I did a play and I was Rudolph. Very cool.
I love it.
I had 8 lines. I thought I was going to go straight to Hollywood after that. But, that unlocked something in me, as silly as it may sound. I, was able to get on stage and say my lines, and to perform in front of a crowd was just something very eye-opening for me. And from that point moving forward, I've been pursuing this career since I was 13 years old. And so I was doing a bunch of theater, but then I really wanted to do film. Film was really what spoke to me. I love movies. I love performing. I love, I would see kids on Disney Channel. I would see kids on Nickelodeon. And I'm like, I want to be one of those kids, right? And so, it took a bit of a process because, pursuing a career in film, you have to make sure you're economically stable for that.
Yeah.
And so luckily I was, and we were able to, and my parents, were supportive. And so we started taking acting classes. And going to drama school. So I was balancing 2, different schools at the same time for many, many, many years. And then obviously I locked in with my local agent in Texas. And then I had to go from homeschooling. I had to go into homeschooling because public school was just it wasn't working with auditions. And then the stuff I was doing, I was not able to balance that schedule. So I did take that leap and had to, go into homeschooling, which was a very, really different experience, but it helped me a lot and it helped me mature very quickly. And I, have been very persistent at a very young age. I'm 21 now, and I'm very excited to be here, to be premiering this film. And I've grown a lot as an artist.
That's amazing. It's so incredible to hear about your journey and just the tenacity you had at such a young age. One thing we're talking about here at the 20th anniversary of Sunscreen is the legacy and what it's like to live a life of legacy. And it sounds like you saw the importance of that right away and really like chasing after that. What does it mean to you to like live a life and leave a legacy?
Yeah, I definitely, first and foremost, I identify as someone of faith. And so, for me, I am the first actor in my family history, really. I come from a family of teachers, of doctors, of law enforcement, military, not a lot of, actors. And so it was a bit difficult having to kind of pursue a career that not everyone's familiar with, but they, my parents have been incredibly supportive, but they can be supportive to a certain extent, because they don't know the business. They can't, they're like, we love you, we support you, but we don't know where to go from here, And so I had to really dig in deep, and I had to really, reach out to people, reach out to drama schools, and really surround myself with community. I think community is very important. Surround yourself with people who have the same interests as you. And I definitely am excited to really inspire people in any way, especially with our film. It's very, very deep. It's dark, but I really hope that we can touch as many people as possible and leave that legacy.
I love that. And let's talk about the film a little
Yeah.
bit more. So for screenwriting, and then is this your debut for executive producing as well?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that journey going from actor to screenwriting. What was that process like for you?
Was extremely formative for me. It, like I said, I really said yes to myself. I didn't want to close myself, in a little box. I, was very inspired during the actor strike. I was studying screenwriting on the side. And so, but I also practiced before I professionally pitched to people. I practiced, just writing different types of scripts, different types of stories and short films. And I started to really like that aspect of telling a story, because I'm used to just, receiving the lines, memorizing them and portraying them, and that's it. But there was something really special, telling a story through text, and really combining those 2 aspects were really, really cool for me. And obviously I really wanted to make sure I acted in it as well. And I also wanted to produce this project. I wanted to have as much creative authority as possible. because since this was a story that was very, very near and dear to my heart, it's a very vulnerable story. I wanted to make sure that people didn't really tamper with the main message of the project, and I wanted to make sure I had as much creative authority as I could. And I'm very excited about, and very grateful for my entire team behind this project. Lisbeth Luz Sanchez, she was my producing partner, Christian Kramer, our director, Steven Farina, our DP, and Cinemammoth Productions for sponsoring us with gear rentals. And we had a really great, strong production, and people really believed in my story. Obviously it was my first time pitching a script as just a screenwriter. And so I really had to make sure I had that quality there so that people could believe and so into this project. And I'm really grateful they did. I'm very grateful for that.
So if there's somebody who's making this initial transition from acting to screenwriting, you said it was important that you have that creative autonomy. What safeguards, like, can you give someone advice to put in place, or like what could they do to keep that creative autonomy?
I think it also ties into community, making sure you try to align yourself with people that see your work. I think for me, the most important thing was also receipts. I think that's the word I'm looking for, because I want, when I would pitch the script to the producers or the director or anybody like that, I also presented with my materials, my resume, my reel. I wanted to show them that I was capable of handling a production. And I think that's the best advice I could give, is just try to make sure you have your reel nice and strong, your resume, great headshots. Just make sure your materials, if you are if you are gonna act in the film as well, or just be a part of the production in any way. Because if you're gonna just pitch the film as a screenwriter and you're just a screenwriter, just throw in a couple of extra scripts that you've done. Just show them that you have the artistic ability to really make sure that you can deliver a quality performance for your film.
So let's talk a little bit more about film festivals as a whole.
Yes.
So you said that this is the East Coast premiere of your film, of your short. So do you go to film festivals often? What do you think of them?
So this is, like I said, this is just a full circle moment, because the reason why I took the leap to even write a script in the first place was because I attended the Lone Star Film Festival in Texas. I was granted an all access pass, and I went every single day. I went every single day, early to late at night. I didn't know really what a festival was until I went, and I just saw so many films, so many different stories, to documentaries, to feature films, to short films. I just saw so much diversity in storytelling. And I think that's what really unlocked my ability to just kind of like really focus on this, on just launching myself. And I love film festivals. This is our first submission that we did for our film, and we got in.
Congratulations.
So we are very excited. We have a couple of festivals that we have submitted to that we're waiting to hear back from, but this is our first submission, and we got notified, and we're here. So definitely shout out to Tony and everybody at Sunscreen for giving us this opportunity. So I'm enjoying the film festival experience. It's a very unique process, and I love getting to see different films, especially independent films, but also union productions. It's a beautiful melting pot of different perspectives, right? Different artistic expressions that people use in their film.
So what do you think gives you that power to just say yes?
There have been times where people have attempted to kind of undermine my ability because of my age, and there have been, honestly, about maybe 95% of the time I am the youngest person in the room. I've had to be. But the best advice I could give anybody, especially around my age, is closed mouths don't get fed. Reach out, go to these networking events, go to these festivals. Even if you don't have a film, just go for it. Buy a pass and just break the ice, because you never know because these directors are always looking for new people. Some people may, push you to the side a little bit, because that has happened to me, but I definitely have stayed firm in my faith. And, I don't waver my ability in other people's perception of who I am. I always believed that I could, and I would say yes to myself. And especially as actors, we are always waiting for permission to act. We're constantly in the audition room. We're constantly, asking, can you see me? Can you see me? Are you casting? But I definitely, if anybody's listening to this or feels inspired, definitely go for it and say yes to yourself. You never know, because sometimes the person that you're waiting on is yourself. And that's what happened to me, and that's what my kind of story has started to unfold. is, this is my debut project as an executive producer and writer, but this is also my first project that I'm just so heavily involved in. And it was something that I wrote. And it's very, very fulfilling for me to be able to share that with as many people as possible.
Brian, I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to talk to you.
Thank you.
To remember to say yes to yourself. The first yes you need to hear is the one from yourself, and then the rest of them will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.